Hello, and welcome to Meeting in the Sacred, a podcast where each week we invite you into diverse conversations about physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being in the pursuit of wholeness. My name is Danielle Chandler. I'm a Christ Path mystic and wholeness coach.
And my name is Teresa Noach. I'm an interspiritual enthusiast and published author with an eclectic Christian background. And no matter where you are in life, if you're curiously seeking, deconstructing, reconstructing, struggling in your faith, or just feeling lost, you are welcome here. Private. This is episode 10. This is our last episode of season 1, and we are calling this a survival's guide to Grinches, Krampus, and religious holiday dogma. And thank you, Danielle, for preparing this for us.
Yeah.
And, you asked a couple of important questions, and we may be able to touch on a few things within these questions because they're big and they can go in a lot of different directions. But how do we hold space for ourselves and our loved ones and others during the holiday season when it's challenging, right? What kind of life do we want not only in the holidays, but every day? And what are some of the steps that we can do to align ourselves with that? And so that is a big pie. And today we're going to cut a little piece of that pie out.
Mhm.
And I know when we were talking earlier about this episode, you said something about apple pies and goodbyes. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a whole nother episode. Apple pies and
Write that
goodbyes.
down.
That's awesome.
That's a good
That's
one.
awesome. Yeah. I'd like to go back to the title because to me, I just see so much in that. So I kind of broke it down, Grinches, Krampus, and religious holiday dogma. And for anybody that missed it, Danielle was explaining to us a little bit about Krampus. And if you don't know, well, you can go look it up. And now you know. But what I got from that, like what jumped out to me about that title was, I would just love to know where the letters, what I just wrote. Oh, there it is. Okay. Personalities, right? Grinches. I hear difficult personalities that we experience specifically through the holiday season. With Krampus, I hear, why don't we define the reason for the season within ourselves? Every one of us has a different reason for the season. And it leads right into, holiday dogma or religious dogma. And I would say, let's not be dogmatic about dogma. Like if we were to talk to, well, not if, we're talking to our listeners today, and anybody that has been intentionally following us or engaging with us, they know that we hold space for the deconstructing, the reconstructing, the curiously seeking, and those that are feeling lost in their faith, or anywhere in between. And so most people that fit into this category have found themselves at some level of personal development, some level of, I don't know what another word for that personal development is, but they've started that journey, that inner journey, whether it's into spirituality or out of some former religious experience or whatever it is, but they're in that place, that divine chasm, which is why we call this meeting in the sacred. Like it's in that space, it's in that chasm of exploration and bewilderment and curiosity. And so since we're talking to our listeners, I would say we all have an opportunity to go into any season, this moment, this hour, this day. All we have is now. But since we're talking about the holidays, we can use all of these but what if challenging situations as an opportunity to understand and know ourselves more, and to take ownership of where we're at in our journey. And since we are all in different places on our journey, I think it is safe to say that we are all at a place where we are aware that we all have room to grow.
Mhm.
So if I come to a place where I'm bracing myself because a certain get together means I have to deal with a certain personality that's been hard to deal with, you know what? We can't change those people. We can't change how they see the holidays. We can't change how they host Thanksgiving at their house, or, you've got, as in Christianity, they always say you have Mary and Martha, right? You've got the busy Marthas, and sometimes they come in and just take over everything, and you don't know how to help or what to do, or, or somebody's extra super loud and the sound of their voice just annoys you, whatever. These are opportunities for us to lean into our personal development. These are opportunities for us to learn more about our triggers, for us to learn more about where we have healthy boundaries, where we don't have healthy boundaries, where we are dogmatic about somebody else's dogma. I mean, okay, I'm at the point where, yes, I see the Bible and Jesus and God through a completely different lens than I did 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I know that where I'm at with my views doesn't sit comfortably with many traditional Christians. So if I am going to a family get together where I already know that everybody is traditional in a certain sense, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with their dogma. I'm okay with whatever they, if it's bringing smiles to their faces today. I don't have to push my revelation or my newfound insight to try to change them or alter them. I
Mhm.
think we get frustrated as the ones that are doing the deconstructing. I think we get frustrated when we feel that we're being attacked because of what we're exploring and because of where we're at. But I think that we should be responsible and accountable to ourselves. This kind of been a
Mhm.
theme for me today. I shared a post earlier. I think when we're deconstructing, it's really important to be accountable to realizing that when we think other people are being dogmatic, we easily slip into that space too. And I think it would help a
Mhm.
lot of us going into the holidays to just take it easy and just like look for the joy in whatever it is, look for the
Yeah.
joy in it, even in Krampus. I mean, I don't know. Obviously people enjoy this celebration. I could
Hey,
judge it. I could
I
judge it. I could totally
laughed.
judge it.
There's this great. I hope I'll send you this picture I saw. Maybe we can post it with our video or
Yeah.
social media. But there's some really wild pictures of Krampus with Saint Nick, and it was making me laugh because it's. I mean, to me, it was the stereotype of, like, I guess who God looked like to me in some ways as a kid, and who the devil looked like in some ways. Um, that's another episode, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I love what you were saying. Um, there's all these opportunities every moment of our lives to be able to step into a greater understanding of who we are and to cultivate the life that we really want, and I think every person we're around and every challenge that we do have is an opportunity, but sometimes in our journey we aren't necessarily able or willing to see opportunity in these situations. And you were highlighting, going through uh, your process of deconstructing, and how, in a way, you can get triggered in your deconstructing by, feeling like your eyes are open to certain truths, and like other people are still embracing them and releasing them into your atmosphere, and sometimes they feel like they're almost pressuring you to believe what they believe, and I think in healing in general, there's a lot of different layers and levels. But something that's helped me, and I think other people that I've worked with to be kind of a navigation tool, is the awareness of a stress response, fight, flight, and freeze. And whenever we identify ourselves or someone else in our environment expressing something that looks like they are fighting, or they're running away, or they're actually freezing up, you know, fighting, I mean, that seems a little black and white. People arguing, people getting
Right.
defensive, people,
Yeah.
creating this like tension where like control and a religious mindset like starts to kind of seep in, and it's like, oh, that person is reflecting a stress response, saying that they might feel unsafe right now, you know, and even looking within, like, what am I doing something that's expressing that, and what do I need to do right now to actually help soothe myself or bring myself back to a place of rest and peace. Maybe I need to walk out of the room and, do some breathing exercises or take a walk around the block, light a candle.
Eat some apple pie.
Yeah.
But only a little sliver because you want to stay true to your values right now. Just a little piece of apple pie. Nope, it's not going to work. Nope, better go for a walk. Because that apple pie is going to turn into pumpkin pie next to apple pie next to pecan pie with all the whipped cream toppings, with the eggnog extra spiked. Okay, am I telling on myself or what? Especially when I've got the hostess with the mostest frenzy. What's the word I used for that earlier? The hostess hysteria, right? When I've been the one, I'm like, I've got to have the engagement at my house. I love to host. But it's like pregnancy and childbirth. You forget how challenging and consuming it is until you're doing it again. And but the joy of the experience is what you remember, right? Same thing. And you'll know
Yeah.
soon after giving birth, you'll know soon. It's like when you're in the birthing experience, you're telling yourself, what the hell was I thinking? Now, mind you, I did have a friend that like she birthed with pleasure. It's rare, it does happen, not most people, so I believe it can happen for you too. But
Thank you.
my experience was not that. And I remember like the next day thinking to myself, why would anybody do this more than once? Because once you have this experience, you never want to put yourself through it again. But literally, almost every mother, by the time that baby is like 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, they start going through that fever and they're like, oh, I just want the little tiny, or like the baby's 1 year just starting to walk. They're like, oh, I want that little tiny baby. So it's like the same thing for me with hostessing events and parties. I'm like, oh, I just love the party. I just can't wait. And then, I've gotten a lot better at it because I have learned some really awesome techniques and skills to be able to host events and also have a bag full of, I don't give a what, like let go of my
Yeah.
control issues through it. But, if you're not there yet and you're the one that's doing the hostessing, you might need to ask yourself, what are some ways that I can honor myself, my core values? I mean, first off, if you don't even know your core values, you don't know how to honor your core values. So you can't say to yourself, this amount of catering is above and beyond a reasonable expectation for me at this point in my life. Why don't we order something in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait a minute. Ordering something in isn't in my budget. Well, maybe we can ask everybody in the family to pitch in and do a potluck. Or maybe we can ask everybody in the family to pitch into a fund where we can order something, but we can be honest about our limitations. And I
Yeah.
think in order to be honest about our limitations, we have to know them. And I think that that's one of our pitfalls. You know, piss. I'm gonna use this phrase in the next episode that we record. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance is like a work phrase in a lot of companies, but I've always loved it. And if we think ahead and we start learning to be, you know, our own advocates ahead of time, of course we can't control all the outcomes and predict everything, but there becomes a way for us to know what the patterns have been. Like, look at the patterns. Where do we get hung up? Where do we get lost? Where at what point, and how is it that we end up at that point where for some people, if food is your addiction, you end up, you know, stomping on your goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
If alcohol is your addiction, you end up stomping on your goals. If anger is your addiction, you end up destroying some friendships and relationships that day, right? If intolerability is, like, what is it? Where do we get hung up? Let's look
Mm-hmm.
back at our patterns. Let's take responsibility for where we didn't respond to the situation in a healthy way for ourselves. And then let's do some better planning, and let's look at what were some of those things that maybe I put too much on myself during that time, and is
And
there some way that I can change that?
I think what gets you to that place is there's always a moment of frustration that occurs in a person's life.
Mm-hmm.
And um, from my experience looking at my own life as well as working with people, that is the space of invitation that invites us in to do kind of that inner work that you were just talking about, asking those questions, you know. And oftentimes these expectations that we place on things, they actually are not realistic, and they tend to create this feeling within us where we get let down, you know. And so it's in that space that we get to understand how to realign ourselves with more realistic expectations or ideas for our lives, and how we can actually put things into place, like you were saying, that become um, manageable, and they don't overwhelm us. You know, I think as kids, a lot of people, uh, they have been exposed to different situations that create emotions in a memory or feelings from a memory. There's muscle memory that can be released from those feelings and emotions, that we try to relive those experiences as we move on in life. We get really, you know, caught up in those experiences, and we try to revisit them, you know. Like you were saying, being a host, I mean, I love creating a party
Me
that like
too.
people are enjoying themselves. And for me, it's like, yeah, I want to get to see everybody, but like, actually, I don't need to talk to everybody. I just want them to have fun. And I know some people are different in why they throw parties, you know, but like that actually is me creating boundaries for myself, because I get to choose how I can move in and out of an environment. Um, you know, and but just like learning, like even the structure of time, well, I get to choose how long I want to see these people, so I get to put the time frame on the party.
You
You
get to
know.
execute all of your control issues exactly the way you want to in the confines of your own home.
Well, I mean, it's, sorry, I gotta plug my phone
Uh,
in here. It's you know, there's like, I mean, there's a difference with micromanaging and trying to control from a place of fear, versus how can I live from a place of self-control and feel empowered, which is the whole point I feel like you're trying to make as you know, have brought up how to be intentional um, with your life, and how you want to live your life the best way that you can
Yeah,
in
and
in light of these challenges.
I think that one point that you make was, you like to throw the party because you do feel a sense of empowerment. You feel like you're more in control of who you have to talk to or don't have to talk to, what time you have to be committed to this and what time you're not committed to it. So like there is that safety net. And that that is that's fine. It's when we get out of that safety net and we're not in control of the party that can we still show up and engage in a way that we can still enjoy ourselves, not just
Hmm.
simply tolerate it either, but
Yeah.
enjoy ourselves. And that might be really hard. That's a stretch because for the holidays a lot of people may just literally be like, I'm here, and that is huge because I don't go
Hmm.
anywhere, or because I struggle with social anxiety, or, because maybe I haven't been out in a long time, and I don't like the way I look. A lot of people at the holiday times feel this pressure to like look good, and maybe they've been in hermit mode. I know someone yesterday I was talking to had an injury that had them down for like 9 weeks. And, a lot of times when someone's trying to bounce back after being bedridden, they don't feel good. They don't look good. Now I got to go show up, do my hair, do my makeup, or just be presentable. And it's like, for some people, just showing up is good, but the stress that it took for them, the anticipation, having to talk to people, and as you were talking about doing your party, it made me think of a woman that I knew a while ago, that would host these wonderful events, but she was not sociable much. She would pick one or two people that she would talk to at each event. But I got an invitation. Our whole family got an invitation to every event. Right. And so it was like, okay, well, you want us there. Right. But you don't
Hang
really
out.
want to talk to us at
Yeah.
all. And that was a little strange. So when I was hearing you say that, I'm like, well, okay. I mean, that to each is their own, but it made me think of how, it's not personal. It's just the
Yeah.
person's preference. It's the person's
Yeah.
preference. They'd rather do the catering too, you know, and really, I think in that case, it might be more about, I still think it might be more about the hostess as opposed to the social gathering. Like you're getting the joy out of being the hostess, but the socializing part really isn't what you're getting out of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's in all these scenarios that we've brought up, there's always evolution, I think, um, in people's lives. Because I wasn't always like this. Um, it's just how I have found myself kind of in life changing, morphing, transforming, healing, and navigating through all these points that you're bringing up. Like, well, how do I sit with myself in light of this pain? What is it showing me? Oh, I'm insecure. Why am I insecure? When was the first time I became insecure? Like, and
Wow.
what can I actually do about this? And how can I, like, do I actually want to show up at this in this space? And if I don't, then what are the consequences for that? And what am I going to have to face? And um, I mean, it used to be I'll just go get high to help myself in light of this really unsafe feeling that I keep experiencing. But I sat with the why. Why is this coming up in me? Where is the root of this? And is this really how I want to show up in my life? And um, that's those things are all really important, I think. And um, everybody is on their own journey, on their own timeline, and no matter where they are or what they're processing through, it's all really important. I mean, even using or avoiding, that in itself is a part of a person's journey. I'm not saying it's the right path or coping strategy, but it's always something that a person can come back to if they get to that place of sitting with why they made the choices that they made. I think that we're wired to keep ourselves alive, and sometimes that choice of using looks like keeping ourselves alive. Again, definitely not necessarily the right strategy for trying to heal or.
Well, for some people, it might be the only strategy they have,
Yes,
the only one they know.
exactly.
And yes, the brain is going to try to rescue you from that
Mm-hmm.
inner infliction. And that's a beautiful part of how we're wired. The brain doesn't
Yeah.
know the difference between doing that, having that drink or doing that line of Coke or whatever that is that somebody is getting, that high that they're getting. The brain is just looking for relief from the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
Yeah.
the only thing that some people know. And, and so through this holiday season, like you were saying, and we had mentioned earlier, this can be an opportunity for us to look at the patterns in the past and look ahead a bit and set ourselves up for success
Mm-hmm.
by going into these situations with alternative methods of relieving our discomfort, having maybe an accountability friend, having that code word on, like, hey, I got to get out of here, here's my code word. I mean, I know that's been things that people that are in
Yeah.
recovery programs use, that
Yeah,
when they go
it's
out
true.
together, they use that.
Yeah,
You were talking
I
about,
use that.
you do.
I mean, not for recovery
I've
reasons,
never.
but I actually have created an escape word for when I'm in places with my husband and I'm like, okay, our code word is mistletoe. If I can't handle this, like mistletoe is the key word.
Oh my gosh, nobody ever told my husband that one, but I bet if they ever told him that there was a system in which you could make up a magic word, and then when you say that, your wife's just going to go, "Okay, let's go." Because there have been so many situations where I know he's done and I'm just enjoying myself, and he wishes he could just push that button and be like,
Oh,
done. And there's been the reverse too, though, because he's a
mm-hmm.
social person too, but he's a social person in his comfort zones, right? He's
Right.
not he's not as social in my comfort zones. And I mean, I think that's reasonable, because even when I get invited to, like, his work things or whatever things that I'm not really too connected with the attendees, but he is. So he's
Mm-hmm.
having a great time. And I might be thinking in my head in advance, I don't know anybody there. He knows everybody there, and I could be overthinking it in advance. I, in the past, would hate, like, sitting by myself, because here I am, you're talking to everybody that and I'm just sitting here like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Those are definitely aspects of the holidays that some people might want to avoid. It could even create areas of conflict in relationships, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, when we go to your party, your friend's this, and when we go to your party, your friend. So even having, like, a plan on how to talk to our loved
Yeah,
ones in
definitely.
advance about how we're going to approach holiday get-togethers together. That's a
Mm-hmm.
good one. I'm taking mental note of that. We have to
Mistletoe.
we have to talk about how,
Code words.
going
Sorry.
into code words, going into, the holiday season, talk more about, yeah, maybe we don't need to talk about it.
Well, no, I think that, I mean, I've heard a lot of times people will wait until there is a crisis for them to get help.
Mm.
And that could even just look like going to counseling, and they don't realize that there are little navigating tools, like I shared earlier, our feelings or emotions that are trying to communicate something to us. And by paying attention to those and not always brushing them off, because sometimes, some things you can put to the side, and you don't have to necessarily unpack or deal with them right away. But it's being able to identify the sense of, I guess, urgency, or how important certain things are. Is it time sensitive or not? And sitting with it and seeing, like, is this something that is aligning to my core values? Is this aligning to who I am, the life that I want to live, how I want my family life to be, my friendships to be, and having a space of intentionality, I think, really does cultivate the lifestyle that we want to live in all those spaces. And it does relieve that tension, that stress response, the fight, flight, and freeze. Those are the opportunities to choose a new way. And I think, that's the whole cycle of the process of having relationship with self and being human. And living in this life is this opportunity to really invest into sow into ourselves and the people around us. So I think it's important. If it's important to you, then it is important.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say if it's important to you, it's important to me, which I thought would have been funny
Well, yeah, I
because
think so too.
because I was thinking that we have to wrap it up here in just a couple of minutes.
Yep.
So I was thinking that you know, the intentionality part is really helpful in situations that have in the past been repetitively difficult, whether it's gatherings, reunions, parties, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. um, People, dogmas, um, personalities, expectations, triggers. I think the intentionality, for me, it's been helpful to go into these situations, especially when dealing with humans, a lot of humans that might, bring up things that my brain gets a little fried out, when I hear, or my heart feels something, or there might be an energy or a vibration from someone, or a tone or something that isn't comfortable. But when I go into the situation with the intentionality of compassion and arriving in this place in the world where I've been able to walk into a situation, and it doesn't mean that someone's personality won't initially kind of annoy me. That happens. It won't mean that I'm now not going to experience those jolts in my flesh, in my body, in my ego. But now when I experience those jolts, I identify them. I set my intention of compassion. I identify them, and I realize that, you know what? There has been times in my life and places in my life where I have been on the other side, where I have been the one that is, annoying somebody else. I have the same capacity to trigger somebody else. I am not um so up on my hill that I don't think that I can't be the one that might be triggering or hard for someone else to deal with. So I just try to be compassionate, go into the situations with compassion for everybody, even the most annoying person in the room. And I say that because now I don't have to feel like people are annoying, because I've been practicing that intentionality. So now even the person that used to be annoying to me isn't annoying anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because now I see them through a different lens. But it took practice. I had to actually put myself in the situation with those personalities, whether it was on purpose or not on purpose, but I had to allow myself to get in those situations and start using a different lens in order to even grow that skill of being able to embrace and love even the most dogmatic, grumpy, what I used to think is toxic, whatever. Now I don't have to go into a situation and be like, oh my God, this environment is so toxic. And I'm not mocking anybody, but I'm grateful that I'm mocking the way I was before, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful that now I don't have as much anxiety around being in toxic environments because I can change the way that energy is processed within me. I don't have to make it about me.
Right.
I don't have to make it about me, And so it really is freeing, and it's goals. It's goals. We just continue to take one moment at a time, return to our breath, remember that all we have is now. And, as we mentioned, you and I in our conversation earlier today, lean on the resources that are available in the community, whether it's, some churches offer different types of resources for holiday, like grief therapy or different things. I'm not anti-church or any organization or institution. I just think that it's important that if you begin to feel that, that it's their way or the highway, or you're not accepted or included because you are different or think different. But if they have resources available to you that are going to help you and empower you through difficult times and situations, and that's what's available, then, use the resources that are available. If you have the finances, get the therapist that fits. Get the therapist that fits for you, But definitely find out what your tools are, and load up your toolbox, but have fun, like find a way to enjoy yourself and truly enjoy yourself, and find a way to just let shit go and show up. And there's so many different ways to do that, and I think each of us just has to figure that one out. But it's like choosing, do I want to be uncomfortable right now, or can I just let myself just get in this current and make the best of it? I'm complete. That's all I have to say today.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to share some free resources that if anybody's going through any type of emotional challenge or having some issues processing through things, maybe you're dealing with anxiety or depression, or feeling like financial stresses are weighing down. Maybe you're dealing with abuse or some family issues. There are some free hotlines that you can contact. This one is a texting hotline. You can text HOME, HOME, to 741-741 anywhere in the US at any time. If you are dealing with alcohol addiction or recovery, you can contact AA. Their hotline is free 24/7. It's 800-66-211-1303. And there are a lot of free community resources. There could be community centers where you live, and they oftentimes have just a wall of brochures that are free. You can pop in. You don't even have to talk to anybody if you don't want to. Skim whatever brochures are there and see which ones stand out to you. And if you want to, you can also reach out to Teresa and I at mediainthesacred.com, and we will, or on social media, and we will help you find some other resources if you need them. So thank you for listening. You can also find Teresa at
unraveledtogether.com, where you can find my book and my music and any other content or community resources that we have for you on your deconstruction journey. And Danielle can also be found, her art and jewelry and her wholeness coaching, at You Are Fully Alive on Instagram. So we hope that you connect with us again, and we thank you for watching.
Yeah.
And listening. Bye, everybody. Happy holidays. Be safe.